and the dedication that they also put on these events and their sessions. So I just hope that everyone enjoys. That's it.
I'm sure they will, and I'm sure we will grow so much in these days. We will have the opportunity to meet different experts that they are coming here to share with us their knowledge, and I'm sure every one of us, will learn a lot. Of course, for those of you that you are newcomers or you didn't have the opportunity to meet other events, I would like to take 1 minute to explain to you that we are an Spanish NGO called Incubadora con Valores. We started working with different organizations to apply for different projects, and then we realized that so many of us, we were always struggling with funds, because as you are an NGO manager, I think 90% of the time you are thinking, okay, what happened if this fund it's restricted, or what happened if the municipality change, or what happened if this and the other. And then we started to analyze that there were so many European and international opportunities. We decided to start sharing those opportunities within the organizations we knew. And then there was like so many people say, okay, I didn't have this knowledge, I would like to know more, and I know about this and the other. We started to share knowledge. And then we started to create networking events in which we were meeting other NGOs, and we were thinking, okay, how can we apply for funds together, and how we can, keep creating this local impact, supporting each other, not seeing us as a competitors, seeing us as a part of something bigger, in which we have a win-win relationship, and have the opportunity to increase our chances to get funds to keep developing programs that they are, making the lives of other people together better. And in the meanwhile, we decided to create events to support our community. And our community started to grow from dozen of NGOs to hundreds to then thousand. Right now, it's almost 7,000 organizations that they have been registered at Convalores Hub. And what we offer is we offer free training for everyone. Doesn't matter if you are a big or a small organization, if you have experience or not. And also we offer networking activities in which you can meet other organizations, and you have the opportunity to start talking like how we can cooperate and collaborate in the future, because we realize that cooperation is key. And now I don't want to extend it anymore, but I will make some clarifications, because I know there are some questions regarding presentations, recordings, etc. All the presentations will be shared next week. Okay, my team will have Friday we finish, and then on Monday we will start working on the presentations. All the presentations will be shared. All the recordings will be shared. Do not worry. You can ask any question you have. You have the opportunity to ask on the questions and answer section. And in there, at the end of each one of the presentations, you will have the opportunity to hear from the experts about the doubts or anything you have related to the topic. Okay? And now I will have my screen shared, and we will introduce our first speaker. Okay, then give me a sec. There we go. Perfect. And here we are. Great. Okay. Wait a second. And there we go. Perfect. I don't know, Celia, if you can see my screen. Okay, yes. Great. Great, that's great. And here, let me introduce you our first speaker at the bootcamp of hands-on, and he will be speaking about identifying funding opportunities within our organizations. His name is Boško Nektarievich, and he is a graduate from BBA IFAM Business School in France, MBA in Solvay Business School in Brussels, and Harvard Kennedy School of Governance in Boston. He has experience in high-level management positions in EU Access, in Brussels, Balkan Security Network, European Training Academy, Kotubli Business School, Business Academy, etc. He is a senior expert for the EU funding programs with 25 years of experience as a proposal writer, project manager, team leader, coach, project and program evaluator for a variety of European Union institutions, operational structures, and projects in over 15 countries. And we would like to welcome you, Boshko. I will put you on the screen. Here we are. Good morning, Boshko.
Well, good morning. It is first, thank you, Celia, and thank you, Andrea, very, very much for organizing this and inviting me. It's a great privilege to take part. And
it's a pleasure for us to have you here.
Mutual. I hope I will meet the expectations of such a wide and challenging group that you've managed to gather of participants and to see perhaps hopefully to outperform the expectations. But let's see during the session. My first session is funding opportunities. Shall we switch to the slides?
I have let you the opportunity to share your screen.
Okay, I will in a second.
Sure.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it perfectly.
That's very good. That's very good. Okay, so now formally on my side, welcome to the funding opportunity session. Our roadmap today moves from understanding the logic, how EU funding sources operate, why essentially are donors giving you the money, to mapping out the funding landscape and understanding how calls and proposals work. At the ending, we'll how to bring strong consortium to find, ideally, if you're not leading consortium, how to find the consortium leaders. So mostly for those, most of the project partnership, they require working in partnership for those who are not familiar with the terminology when I say consortium. So this is about moving from ideas to partnerships towards project proposal submission, and at each step I'll show you insider tools, mistakes to avoid, and how to stand out and to be successful. Now, as Andrea was kind to introduce me, I won't repeat what she said. Thank you very much for this splendid introduction. And I will only add that I had a vast experience over 25 years in proposal writing, managing projects, particularly EU projects, small and large, and building innovation ecosystems, which might be particularly valuable for you in over 15 countries and covering also 3 regions, 4 actually, EU and the Balkans, and then Med countries and the Arab countries. So I bring a lot of experience and I hope to share it all with you. I probably have more answers than you will have questions, and I probably can answer pretty much anything you might ask. So feel free to ask, type in your questions during the presentation, and at the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session, roughly some 20 to 30 minutes of discussion on whatever you want to ask. Please don't hesitate. When we talk about funding programs globally, it is essential to understand not just who provides the money, but also expectations and dynamics that comes with each different funding source. Now, these slides present a simplified map of the funding categories you might engage with each one with distinct characteristics. First, the government grants, typically national or regional, and typically offer non-repayable grants focused on public benefits, which might be research, innovation, employment, social inclusion, and so on. Highly regulated, competitive, require a transparency and measurable impact. EU programs like Horizon Europe fall mostly in that category. Now, I immediately also like to distinguish all of these instruments on top down, where institutions, donors, they impose their objectives and you need to reply in your proposals to address those objectives. This is what we call it top down, because you don't actually have the choice to propose anything you like, but you need to respond to the call and the objectives that the donor had set. And the bottom-up schemes, which are very rare, where you have the capacity and opportunity to propose anything you like, however, and then you start searching the adequate funding source for your idea, who would support it. This type of schemes are a vast minority, I must immediately warn you. So then international and multinational institutions, and think of UN, World Bank, IMF, or regional development banks in different continents or different regions, and they often fund capacity building, infrastructure, climate resilience, peace building. The processes are highly bureaucratic, but offer long-term support and global visibility. Multinational banks, most famous European Investment Bank, for example, then EBRD, for example, and development-oriented national banks, they are mostly into blended finance loans in majority of the cases with some grant elements. They focus often on language. They have their own distinct language, like EU institutions. I often find myself and my colleagues joking about when we work with the EU institutions, they develop very distinct, unique language that you need to learn while working with them. It's not English, and it's not even Brussels English. It's more like EU institutional version of English. So the same applies for these type of European investment banks, EBRD, and this type of funders. And then public-private donors and investors, they co-invest, usually private foundations or corporations. The examples, the most famous would be like Gate Foundation, or then within the EU framework, that would be European Innovation Council blended finance. Now, these initiatives often seek both social impact and innovation, and they're bridging public priorities and private sector agility. Venture capital is a story of its own. VCs are profit-driven, of course. They invest in usually high-risk, high-reward ventures, similar to EIC in Europe. Mostly technology, mostly biotech, scalable, highly scalable projects. You're not applying really with a proposal. You need to have a business plan, but essentially you're pitching. That's what's critical about it. They want fast growth. They want market disruption usually, and a clear exit strategy. While investors are at lower scale in terms of the size of investment that you might get and size of support, some often investment. What they bring in is usually mentorship. They usually tend to be highly involved in developing of your project. So you will be probably working with someone who believes in you and wants to share their experience in the area. And crowdfunding platforms, those who are most well-known, best-known, Kickstarter and GoFundMe and Seedrs, platforms mobilizing capital from the public. They're ideal for pre-selling projects, services, and so on, testing market demand, also building up your credibility as in terms of the clients and customers' demand, and they are highly dependent on very marketing intensive, and that would be a critical factor for them. And also depend also on successful storytelling and building this strategical marketing communication campaigns. So each one of those of the major groups have their own ecosystem essentially, and they have different languages, different terminology you need to use, success metrics and KPIs, and even different power dynamics. If you look at lobbying, on who do you need to know and what kind of information, what kind of relationship to nurture in order to be successful. I'll tell more about it in the next slides. Now, this is the same overview of the same slide with just what I explained, examples of regional leading names in different continents for each one of the groups. Now, this slide is probably the most important one that I'll show today. And this slide explains how vast majority of EU funding programs work. Now, why it's critically important, because what I will intend to do during the slide is to change your perspective on how funding programs work. Most of people believe that provided that they've created a successful project, that they have a valuable business plan and so on, that they will be successful. And I want to completely change that perspective, that paradigm on how do you see funding programs. Because how the programs work, on the left side of the triangle, you'll see politicians on a country level or not subnational or international level, like USA, like Germany or EU. And the politicians at that level, they debate and negotiate about their joint priorities, what they want to achieve, what they want to fund with the money available, typically public money available to them. And they develop policies, political objective policies and strategies. Those are both synonyms for strategic planning. Policies or strategic planning, and they are set by the politicians. For example, in EU institutions, you find variety of different policies covering probably any segment of business, industry, life, agriculture, medicine, health, social welfare, whatever. Now, politicians usually work, they're funded, their campaigns are funded by the what we call big money, large industry, 1%. So opposed to common belief that politicians would prioritize interests of the citizens of their countries, we increasingly see in the modern world today, and you can look at the dynamics between US and EU, you can look at the dynamics within the EU as well, among policy making and other continents, that the politicians often prioritize goals which are not in the best interests of their countries. Why? And this is because they work for those who had supported their campaigns, and that would be the 1%. Sometimes that might be US based, sometimes it might be typically industry based. So that's the first demystification I'd like for you to dive deeper in on who decides about the priorities and policies and strategies. And then in the executive agencies here on the second angle of the triangle, in European case, that would be usually European Commission with increasing number of the agencies below the Commission. And they design instruments how to achieve those objectives which politicians had decided upon on, and they need to implement them. So they have a range of those instruments which are obligatory, such as regulations. They can impose regulations to you in order for you to participate in some area. That could be, for example, you need to have CE marking if you want to export to EU markets, or you need to have certain standards if you want to participate in certain tenders, and so on. And the other option of instruments they have are funding programs. So this is the essence. So what the funding programs are all about. They are usually divided into work programs, because work programs, funding programs are in EU case developed on a 7 years period. But as we can't really predict due to market dynamics and interactions in terms of global and security politics and so on, we can't decide on what we'll fund in a call 7 years from now. So we work on a smaller scale of planning, and those are work programs within funding programs. So work programs are documents where you can see plans about the calls which will happen within next year or two, typically 2 years within the EU framework. And finally, you, the applicants, us. Now, when we propose what we want to achieve, I immediately can see whether your initiative stands a good chance to get funded, to extent to which it will change from where we're starting, where we're right now, to this left angle of the policy objectives. So how much change, how much you will get us by the end of the project closer to achieving those objectives which are stated in the work programs and above in the policy objectives. I hope this helps, because it's the essence of successful fundraising within the larger multinational frameworks, and even on the larger country frameworks. For example, the same logic applies to GIZ, to German funds, to US funds, to USAID. USAID is supposedly closed, but not really. They just kind of rebranded it now, and now it's less transparent, but still working. So this is essentially what I want to remember, if any, from this session, to develop the correct paradigm view on how funding programs work. Why are they giving you the money? Is because they want you to achieve policy objectives which they've set. Now, this is, I don't want to scare you with the next slide. This is an overview of all EU programs. And as you can see, we have quite a lot of them. I'm not going to go through all of them. I just want to share with you the logic on how they operate. You can see main 3 groups of instruments reflecting 3 main funding logics. So let's demystify this whole mess. The first group are structural cohesion and investment funds. And they're managed nationally. They're managed by the member states. So an example, those programs, if you try to tackle them in Spain, would be probably managed on a ministry or regional development agencies level and so on. And they're much more familiar. They're often available on the local languages as well to apply for. They are the largest sum of money that the EU has to offer. Then we have a different group, which is community actions. We call them often direct grants. And this is where the most of those EU programs, which are highly competitive, designed for all of the EU member states, even wider, not only EU member states, because any country who had completed negotiations to take part in these programs can be a participant. So those programs are managed from Brussels and agencies coordinated with the European Commission. And those include Horizon and Erasmus, and the largest, maybe the most attractive opportunities for you today. And then we have third group, perhaps the less opportune, depending on where do you want to work, because these are external programs projecting interests of the EU outside in neighboring countries, and why they're projecting EU global power like IPA in the neighborhood, in the enlargement countries, and NDICI, and they're operated by delegations and national intermediaries. So it would be a pity not to mention some of the most attractive programs for you from this group of community action programs, such as Horizon Europe, which funds research and innovation. And it's mostly one of the most attractive opportunities for for the participants today, according to the information that I received from the organizers. Then Erasmus Plus, which funds education, training, youth, and sports. Then Creative Europe, that supports culture and creative sectors, including media, arts, heritage, and so on. Then we have CERV, Citizens, Equality, Rights and Values, promoting EU values, equality and citizens' participation to funding of NGOs, public authorities, civic society. Then also, of course, for employment, European Social Fund Plus for employment, education, social inclusion, and vulnerable groups. LIFE program focusing on environmental and climate actions. Then Connecting Europe facility, building up capacity and capability on EU level in terms of transport, energy, and digital infrastructure, and so on and so on. I could continue, but for those of you who are newcomers, I would really gladly recommend that you take a look at this EU Learning Guide. We've developed it in order to minimize the space for misinformation, disinformation about EU programs. This is a very valuable tool for you to get a grasp or over 30 plus programs in a very plain language. And ideally, then you can focus on 5 to 7 programs which really match your sector mission and your objectives. So don't apply everywhere, choose carefully. And this instrument here, your learning guide, enables you to surf through all of the programs portrayed introduced within 2-3 pages with these general guides, structures on what the funding instruments are about and the thematic priorities, eligible applicants, do's and don'ts for each one of the programs, and so on. So I also created another guide. I was asked by the Commission to create Horizon Europe practical guide for, at the time, to stimulate participation of the organizations from Turkey and Montenegro and enlargement countries. And this handbook is also a fantastic resource for the applicants and professional trainers as well, offering education in these areas. So to minimize the disinformation and to keep you on the right track on how it should be done. You can download both. You have links on the slide. Now, when I'm starting my own analysis about either for a client or for my own project, this is where I would typically be starting. It's FTS. The acronym stands for Financial Transparency System. Now, why? I like to have full overview of the stakeholders in some market. Wherever my project is, I like to have full information about who's dominating the market, like who are the key players, what was their market share, and where is the state of the art, who's the best, who are the underdogs, and so on and so on. Now, FTS helps me to identify projects that are funded, in this case by the EU, in your country, in any country, the key players on a country level, and you can either compete with them or work together with them. There's only 2 options. Probably they're not going to stop once they've been successful in obtaining EU funding. So you'll be competing with them, or alternatively working with them, because majority of the programs require working in partnerships. So they also provide you excellent overview of those available EU programs in your country, in that region that you're analyzing. And also identify on the side of the donors on who's responsible for those programs if you want to develop more advanced lobbying strategies. So this is very valuable info source. Now, this is how it looks like when I've just typed in, okay, so the most commonly used programs in Spain. The one thing which you'll immediately notice is that apparently here on this slide, there are those programs which had expired. So many of them are, of course, still in use, but many of them we've finished. So that once I'm starting to analyze my funding sources, but this is after more, in my case, more than 25 years of experience. I start with work programs. And work programs, they are designed, as I mentioned, as the next step after trying to create, based on from the policies, on the policy, when political establishment decides on the objectives, then the agencies decide on the instruments, and instruments are synonym for EU programs. So once we have EU programs, we can't implement and start working with a time span of 5 to 7 years, as typically on EU it would be 7-year funding cycle. So then we have work programs to plan for the objectives and calls for proposals for the next year or 2 years, typically 2 years in EU. Now, I start there at the time when drafts of EU programs are published. So as soon as the draft of work programs are published, I start reading them, and often I find myself as part of these teams debating, participating in consultations about how do we change and advance these work programs. Why? Because I have the chance then to influence call text. Not to a great extent, but to some extent I can influence call text. Also, national representatives of the country can have more stronger influence, or industry representatives. And this is when we get the first time the description of the calls for proposals. Now, for those of you who are working with the EU, this is probably a homepage. It's essentially EU funding and tenders portal. For me, this is a homepage. Currently, we have 809 open calls, and you can surf through them. First, select your program period, then program, then call, then submission status. Just switch off those who are closed and look at the forecast and open one, or you can search generally and then refine later the program. Now I'll talk about more about call analysis in next few slides, but I also compiled here a list of other platforms for you where you can search funding from different areas in terms of geographical areas, different continents and different countries and different regions. But also I've tried to compile platforms that offer for you partnerships as well. So you can pay on these platforms for other people to get you into, to create consortium and get you in consortiums and so on. I won't spend much time on that. I'll just give you DevEx, which is the most popular one. I'll give you a DevEx example. So DevEx offers you an opportunity to create a partner's profile, then to use these funding tabs to track particular donors' activities. And for me, applying my logic for the previous 20 plus years in EU, I would want always to know funding forecasts. I'd like to know in advance what's going to be happening so I can prepare to examine those market stakeholders, state of the art, and so on. So, and also try to prepare the consortium on time. And then you can analyze through this platform as well, local and strategic partners, which is particularly important if in vast majority of the calls you need to work in partnerships, whether as a partner or consortium leader, depending on your capacities, financial capacities and managerial capacities. So you can also read donor strategies, which is critically important. That's what I mentioned while I start with work programs, when I'm looking and analyzing EU calls. This is the same. I would first start with reading donor strategy and then look at the call to get a better idea what are the policy objectives they want us to achieve. Of course, Monitor events and networks, which are great opportunities for you to get to harvest all the potential of good networking. For many of those who are newcomers, essential question emerges in this. There are thousands of websites and thousands of sources for funding that you might find if you just go to AI and if you just type in find for this and that, you will see you'll be flooded with information. Now, the first question that emerges after looking all the diversity is, how do I structure that information? And what's my part, what's my role in some of those calls where I don't see immediate match for my interests? So I'll explain first, how do you, what are your options to take part? You can look at the role of a sole participant. That would mean that you and your organization are managing the entire process of analyzing the work programs, called text, writing the proposal, and provided that the call is such that that's minority of calls. It's very limited number of calls that would allow that for you as a sole participant, and then to step into proposal writing and apply. So I'd say it exists, but it's not so common that you'll find this option available that matches your objectives or priorities. Then the second option for you is to work with partners, meaning creating a consortium. Now you can be a partner in a consortium or consortium leader. And I often get questions, so what was the difference between what if I'm a partner and what if I'm a consortium leader? I would want to be a consortium leader. The only difference if consortium leaders' roles is the project management. Typically, consortium leader manages the PM work package. It means that it also monitors and supports other partners to get up to the level of quality which is necessary in their deliverables, reporting, communication, and so on. So that's the added burden on being consortium leader, opposed to those who are acting only as a partners in a consortium. So if you're just a partner, then you'll stick to either being a work package manager or have several tasks and then have your own deliverables and communication with others. Provided that you have created the most adequate consortium reflecting what's required in the call, then you might step into proposal writing, when typically that would be dominated by the most experienced one in the consortium. If not consortium leader, the smart consortium leaders select those who are most experienced within these partnerships to assist them, and that's how we usually work. So once you've identified the call, my first advice is to start reading the call text and read topic description and the scope, what we need to cover within the call, and then the expected outcomes and impacts that EU or any other donor is paying you to achieve through the project. And then you analyze this text. Prior to AI, before we could use AI, I would be reading this text with my eyes focused on, okay, so when I'm reading the topic, I'm looking, what exactly Commission expects me to do? What kind of expertise is needed for this? What kind of capacity? What kind of resources, networks? What do I need to have in order to match the expectations presented in the call? What's all necessary to achieve all of the impacts that they've listed? And then I start call analysis by looking closer at the work packages, activities, expertise, resources. And based on that, only once I've concluded that part, then I can figure out, okay, what's my role and other partners' role in this project. So this is how we define our role. Now, this is theoretical, but I'll get you down to more practical text. For example, this is a text from some, I think, 15 years old, but highly relevant because based on this call, all the bank cards now that you use, which are tactile, that's how we develop them. So my colleague, Professor Dr. Thies Wittig, he was an expert in ICT, and myself, we've met with a potential partner. He's a small SME in ICT, and he asked us, how do I take part in this call? And then he started reading, and this is typically what happens with large calls. He said, oh, the focus on the development and testing of usable, economic, and privacy-preserving access control platforms based on the use of biometrics, smart cards, and other devices. Now, the solutions are installed and tested in a broadband network, giving access to smart services running over the network with state-of-the-art security, avoiding single points of failure. And even by that time, by the second paragraph, we've lost him. He couldn't understand. He said, within his mind, and he's a small SME, he started thinking, wow, we're talking about development and testing of usable, economic, and privacy-preserving control platforms, but including biometrics and smart cards and other. And he says, well, I don't know anything in biometrics, so I can't be developing this. And then next, the requirement in terms of the scope was this, the solutions are to be installed and tested in a broadband network. And he said, well, but I didn't do that. I'm kind of small. I'm working as an SME on a smaller scale on ICT development. And this is exactly the point. People don't understand the call, and hence not understanding what's required, they give up. They say, oh, this is not for me, I can't take part, and so on, which is not the case. These calls, most of the large calls, are not at all designed for one organization to solve all the problems. Rather the opposite. They're designed for many organizations. Typically, research innovation actions will have minimum 15 partners, and half of them would be academia, and then R&D developers, and so on and so on. So you need to consider that this text wasn't written for you to solve all the problems, but you need to analyze it and find your own role. First, by looking at how do we group this, what's required in terms of the activities, how do we group these activities? And this is an example. We've created work breakdown structure, device development, testing of smart services, secure cloud databases, interoperability, business plan, access to right management. So, and then based on the web development device here in the work package one, we figure out, okay, so this is the work package where you as an SME for development can take part. Now that's important process for you to understand. Now I'll try to simplify it even more. Now you're using a more advanced tool that we have today, such as AI, but I will also caution you, and because once the AI was here and introduced to those who are dealing with proposal writing and so on, many of those who are newcomers believe that they had just kind of grabbed the holy grail of business success, that someone else can write the proposals for them and they'll be successful, which is not the case unless you know how to train your AI adequately for this. So I'll just point out those mistakes of those who started now looking for funding sources and designing projects using AI. For example, if we find some call, and I selected one randomly, I didn't care, I just selected it out of in the EU fundings and tender portal. It was the first one close to came to my mind when I was thinking about this webinar, and I thought, well, okay, maybe the role of civic and citizen education for strengthening civic and democratic participation and support European common values. Perhaps might be interesting for some. So I thought, okay, let's take this one and make an example out of it, just for the sake of having an exercise. And the first thing you need to know is what type of the action here is. It's research and innovation action. And that's very significant information in any of the platforms. This is funding and tenders platform, but regardless, if you go to DevEx, you need to know what type of action. Is it a tender? Is it a action grant? Is it a, and this is a research and innovation action. It means part of it needs to be devoted to the fundamental research, part of it needs to be devoted to the applied research, and so on and so on. Technology readiness level between probably 1 to 5. Usual number of partners here is around 15. Usual budgets are between 3 to 5 million. And then I asked my, I copy paste, this is the topic description, and the text is below. So I just use copy paste. I selected this, and then I copy pasted into the first, I used here Open AI, like ChatGPT, so and anyone can access it. So that's why I used it. And I said, okay, I'm going to copy paste this, and I'm going to ask make a work breakdown structure out of this text in this call, and this is what started happening. My AI immediately starting producing results, saying, okay, so based on the scope description, outcomes, impacts, look, those are the work packages, media ecosystem and disinformation dynamics, blah, 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 and then those tasks, then innovation tools and networks and so on. Now this is happening fast, so I'm going to move to the next slide where you can see it clearly, the results of the AI work. In essentially before AI showed up, it took days for us to analyze and think about this and then create these type of things. Now it's much faster, but I must caution you, not accurate. Now I'm going to conclude with mistakes that AI is creating. So this is what the AI generated. Work package of project development, project management coordination. It's a typical one. I won't go to the tasks. Then mapping existing citizen education practices. That's good because it considered that we need to do this basic research to do a literature review, mapping formal and non-formal civic education approaches, then identify barriers and enabling youth civic engagement, gender and inclusion sensitive analysis, comparative analysis about different ways in different EU member states, designing a pilot of innovative pedagogical approaches. So co-design workshop with youth educators, civil society, I would add industry, develop innovative or gamified and digital technology learning tools, pilot new methodologies, informal and so on and so on. Then impact assessment, methodology assessment, policy analysis and recommendations, how to advance it. And of course, one of the typical work packages, those would be project management, dissemination, exploitation, and stakeholder engagement. So how do we involve stakeholders early and have impact by the end of the project, which will create the essence of any project is that you create a change in the behaviors of your stakeholders. So now, why is this not fully correct? You can also immediately ask AI to find you partners for this. Now, I've done that as well to show you. I just typed, find me best partners for all the tasks. And here it is. This is what the AI would suggest. Now, be careful what I'm saying. I'm saying based on the previous Horizon projects. So based on exactly those projects that they have to be already engaged in this type of projects. So AI is looking to those databases, and he's suggesting for VP1 first Center for European Studies, Brussels-based, then German this, then University of Amsterdam, then University of Tartu in Estonia, so on and so on, based on their projects, which resemble the project that I just described, that I've just the scope and so on, which I just copied. So essentially here we have Leuven, we have European SchoolNet, then something like some UK firm, and so on and so on. Now, to wrap it up, this is the list. Now, if you look at the list and you look at the work packages on what the AI suggested who should be leading the tasks, and then you look at how AI created these work packages, why I must caution you that this is a very it's a very useful tool, but you need to train it in order to become a tool that will lead you to success. Otherwise, you will be exposed to errors and mistakes. You'll have a lot of problems then correcting what the AI messed up. So by now, after all these years, when AI writes something like this, my first reaction is, oh, let me see what went wrong, where they messed up. So when I analyze the first one, the work breakdown structure, and when I analyze the list of partners, I can see the bias of the AI. The bias is developed based on what was the most recent data set that the AI could get. So probably these was the most common, the most often at the time of the request, repeated organizations and mentioned organizations for similar activities. And the work breakdown structure was developed probably based on the most recent projects that on those, using those large language learning models, those words, they were developed. But for you to get the good results, you need to do your homework. Step behind is when you had read the work program or the donor strategy, already at the time, you need to start the first step. This is how we do it, the old school, I'd say, and start gathering all the projects, as I said, first identifying at the either country level or geographical level that the project needs to address, all the key players and already implemented projects. Why? Because you need to know where the state of the art is. Who are the best ones, and what's the level of excellence that we reached in your area for which you're proposing your project, your innovation in innovative service, innovative product, innovative solution for some problem and whatever. So let's see what others had done and create a database of it. Create a database of the recently funded and ongoing projects. Then also what I want to see is a market. I don't want to see only EU funded or donor funded projects. They're tightly coordinated in Western world. Donor coordination is an important part. So usually you'd find them complementing each other and so on. Although they do have different communication strategies and proposal writing strategies and instruction, different languages of their cultures, but they tend to be complementary. So you need to have all that collected. And once you fed your AI, once you uploaded that data in your AI, and then ask your AI to develop exactly this, what I just demonstrated. But using those projects, you're gonna get correct results or close to correct, because AI won't be using something which is outside of the scope, and some examples which are algorithm based. Just to show you a typical, to demonstrate a funny, to some extent funny, but typical mistake. In one of my last searches, AI suggested for me to use university from Kiev. I believe it's called Kiev Economic School, something like that, as the world leading expert on economic analysis for something. Now, why is this mistake funny? It's obviously reflecting the trend that majority of the people who'd like to get funding, following the political priorities to get Ukraine involved and funded, had been continuously giving money and inviting this entity to take part into their projects. So AI concluded, because of the dynamics, that this must be one of the leading institutions, which is obviously not, compared to, I don't know, London School of Economics or other distinguished academic and excellent centers in their respective fields. Now, you want to work with the best. If you need to be choosing partners, my advice, of course, is choose the best ones. They will give you, apart from the opportunity to learn and advance, in your own methodologies and knowledge and so on. If you become part of their networks, they will open up funding opportunities for you and sort of kind of pull you by the hand, if you prove to be a trustworthy partner, into the larger funding opportunities and the next calls. Which leads me to getting opportunities to partnership section. So typically, when you want to build your partnership networks, it develops either planned in a planned way or unstructured way. Through your career, you simply start getting to know people who are in your sector, and you start knowing more about whether they have ethical practices, whether they're successful, how successful they are, whether they're leaders in their area, and so on and so on. Now, usual ways for building your networks would be to gradually, from your education, universities, NGOs, gatherings, and so on, expand bit by bit. But what differentiates my approach than approaches that you might hear soon after, we'll have a session dedicated to partnerships after mine. What differentiates my approach than other approaches is I'm going to very briefly, in a few minutes, teach you how to hack the system, meaning to typically avoid those practices which are recommended by others as the best ones. I just want you to consider that using a few advices that I'll give you from my experience, you can do a very faster identification of funding opportunities, and then as well creating consortium and joining consortiums. Now, typical ways to find partners and explore opportunities would be through business partners, of course, research colleagues, identifying company networks, expanding them. Of course, the whole list that I provided you of organizations who actually charge you to do that on your behalf, and then open source search portals such as Cordist, funding and tender portals, DevEx, Idealist, EN, which is developed by European Union to support you in finding partnerships, and CP as well, and so on. But my point is, what you want to do is essentially focus, and this is the most effective approach ever, and tested. I gave a lecture like this to the leaders in EU funding arena, leaders in terms of those who had the most successful projects, large projects on 10, 15 million plus euros, and those organizations. And then I asked them, how do you find partners? Do you use this partner search these lists, and none of them, even the policy member policy officer was present. None of them responded, no, we don't use them. None of them said to support policy officers' view that these are useful tools. All of them stated to me exactly what the seniors do. They have already well-developed networks, and I do. So we use previous and ongoing projects, and we ask our colleagues if we miss someone. So that's where you find experienced coordinators. Now you can use, I've copied here from the European Research Executive Agency slides that you can later on revisit. I copied for you all of their advices. Here you can register your partner's profile openly and so on and so on. I won't go to this. Then this is the most suitable network, EEN, in the Horizon Cluster 3 Net for Society slides, how you can partner effectively. These are my own examples for brokerage events which I've participated on recently. Great opportunity. I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't do what colleagues advise you to do. You should. Even you can see through my results, I immediately received, I just copied a few feedbacks on when I presented my profile and I presented myself. They sent me, oh, we got this project. It's about music and science and so on. Oh, we have actually not one project because it's a large organization. We're going to apply in destination 1 and 2 and 3 in total of some 20 calls. So if you're interested in some, let us know and let us know about your role and your other partners. And then this is one presenting their expertise and resources and relevant calls and topics that they want to go for, and so on and so on. So I say I'm not undermining that networking through these events, brokerage events, are not valuable. They are. You have a great chance to learn about your, hopefully, your partners for the next projects, who they are, how they communicate, what are their expertise, references, and so on, and what calls they're interested at. And this is the way for you to expand your knowledge about calls where you can participate as well, because you will be often invited, you will be provided these lists of what calls they want to consider. And then you can, if you are lucky enough to gain a trust and confidence from some coordinator leader, then you can pitch to them why your added value, why would you be good partner in some of these calls. And that's exactly what I explained on the previous slide, how you analyze a call, and based on your analysis, how you create then your presentation. In a nutshell, how you create your presentation is you create brief description on a one-pager of your vision, mission, objectives, expertise. We provide regular services in that area, recent successful projects, topics of interest within either, if it's a donor from US, then you won't write EU programs. You concretely say topic of interest are those calls, donor calls that you are planning to apply. And our role, this is where you define precisely what you'll be doing. Why? Because if I'm a coordinator and I'm going to be leading a large project, this is an example. What I want to see communicated by my partner effectively, and this is by far the most common typical mistake. This is the description of organization where I work, this Balkan Security Network. And there's altogether maybe 10 sentences brief about the organization. Then our main tasks, then our main experts, like Professor Dr. Steve Quarry, Dr. Richard Simmons, and me. And then you see our whole references and CVs and whatever, they're not attached. They're here in maybe one paragraph long. That's it. Just take a look. And then our relevant projects that we previously participated from that area and our publications. So this is what I want to know when I'm speaking to a potential partner, and I want it effectively communicated. Now, do I have that for the project or I don't have that for the project? Whether it will be credible. If it's credible, then I don't have to worry about you as a partner. So that's the first way for you to effectively build trust of a coordinator leader. But as I said, they won't be searching for you. You need to be proactive doing the analysis. So this is how typical partner profiles look like. And you will be trained more about it in next sessions. But what I want to add in hacking the system is how do you find the most successful consortium leaders? And you go to databases like Devex and like Cordis. Cordis is much more effective because it's the largest database about innovation and development and research projects that EU funded. And there you start looking at those who were most successful in your topic area. And then you create a list of all their projects. And then that looks like this. On my last search, I had around 3,000 coordinator participants and coordinator leaders, and around, I believe, something like 600, 700 projects. I only analyzed Horizon. I didn't want to go below. I started working with FP6, so we're now in FP9. That's 20 years ago. So I limit my search to last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years to get the most relevant ones. And then this is what you want to have in your database and your AI to analyze. This is brief description of all the participants and all the project summaries and so on. So first, when you start speaking with some coordinator, you want to know what he was successful in, what were his results, what he devoted his life to. Otherwise, it's disrespect. I find it very disrespectful when someone asks me to do something which are outside of the scope of my expertise, interest, and so on, because I am a senior and my colleagues are also 15 to 20 years older, and they don't want someone pitching to them something which is completely off whatever they are doing and they're interested in. You need to gain the trust in a very fast way to effectively engage with the coordinator. You need to know more about what his plans or her plans are in terms of next project development steps. And that's easy based on their previous and ongoing projects. They're probably going to develop something based on that and build further. So I would start by saying, guys, I read some of your project results here and I found them tremendously valuable for what I'm doing right now. And I see a clear common ground for us to cooperate, maybe on some next initiatives, with our added value being this, and that provided in attachment. And that would be my partner's profile and my pitch to consortium leader that I didn't know from earlier. Now, to wrap up, what I want to know in order to get the right funding source, what I want to know when I start analyzing and the logic of why I want to emphasize this, I want to know the market. If you don't know market that you're playing in, if you're pitching innovation, advancement, whatever it is, might be philanthropy, might be innovative service, might be innovative product, business model, whatever you're pitching, you want to know to which market is it. Is it a local market? Then it's probably not interesting for international donors. You might be looking at municipality, city funding, national funding, and small scales, so on. Then if it's a bit larger, if it's on country level, then you probably have international, multinational banks. You would probably also have EU funding. You probably have main international donors, USA, GIZ, Norway, and so on and so on. So you want to know how the market looks like and who are the dominant key players, who controls the market right now, and who profits in this specific area that you are working on in this sector. Who's currently being the top dog, who's currently extracting the most money out of it. Then who are the others? Those players with smaller market shares, whatever it is. It could be philanthropy, it could be fundraising, EU fundraising, international fundraising, or it can be industrial sector like agriculture, transport, ICT, whatever it is. Then we need to look at relevant projects, ongoing and recently finished, to identify who are you competing with, what's the state of the art, what's the best currently products and services and so on the market, and who are those players who are already there. Then for the best ones, typically, they are heavily grounded and rooted in academia, and their excellence comes from a life of working and studying on those topics and researching and building next frontiers. So you need to look at their relevant publications. Typically, those would be scientific. And you need to look at where they're crossing. So these are people not working in a, how would I call it, like in what's in the space, it's where there's no air, vacuum. They're not working in a vacuum. They are working in networks. They're tightly intersected, interconnected in a different ways. Some are friends, some had joint business interests, some strategic partnership to build up their advantage positions, and so on and so on. You need to consider that. And I'll open the question and answer session with introductory story about if you are pitching disruptive innovations, now that's the most attractive program within the EU financially. It offers up to 2.5 million grants and 10 million investments and so on. And I wrote and won 6 projects. Those are the most competitive and the most complex in terms of strategy and how to develop this in the whole EU arena. And then if you're pitching innovations that ought to be changing, they will change the market. You first need to think about who are you pitching this to, and what are you pitching. Of course, you need to have a clear idea of what you want to achieve in terms of innovative product, service, business model, approach, solving a problem in a different way that you have, and so on. So my answer to you is to my experience of, as I said, long experience, you are probably going to pitch, and this is not only for EU, this is for all the donors. You're pitching to those who are protecting the current situation in the market. They are closely cooperating with market leaders, with the big money, and so on. Remember the triangle where we started. The big money, 1% would fund politicians. Politicians will develop policies and strategies. The agencies will develop funding programs, regardless of EU or USAID or GIZ or whoever it is. Then they are asking for you to advance those impacts and policies. And if it's disruptive innovation, what you're saying to those who are controlling the largest market share, you're saying, oh, I want to control it now. I want to take your profit from you to me. That's essentially what you're communicating to them if you're effectively pitching disruptive innovation. Now, there's a paradox that so far nobody is publicly addressing in the EU. So how on earth do you really want this to work out? And through my experience, it can work out because, as I said, I've been successful in it. But you need to intelligently approach this situation. So you're not going to tell to them, I want to seize your market and take your market shares. Most intelligently, you want to tell them, I will create new market and we will have dominance probably shared, you and us who are proposing this, so we can expand the market in such a way through our innovation. And then if it's on a level of industry sector, and you can get partnerships with the large ones, and they can even provide you funding for this as someone who's going to invest in either as venture, probably most likely as VC, to support development of this type of a project where they will also have a lot of profits. But if it's a smaller level, like a city or smaller, then you probably can't rely that someone like that would invest. You can then go on to smaller scale. If the size of the market is smaller, you can then probably rely on some smaller investors than the major players in the EU and on a global scene. And then you need to think, okay, so who's got the interest to take over market dominance? So who's your natural partner? It's probably going to be someone who's have a smaller share and want to take over the market, or someone who's got communication with your customers already developed. Think about, I don't know, delivery services like, I don't know, Wolt, or what's the most famous delivery service in your country? And they have access to some kind of customers, and then you build up another layer of services or products that they are delivering. So for them, it's business expansion, very natural, just tapping into the resources they already have. So those are two strategies that I found successful so far. Essentially, those are the only two strategies that I found successful so far. If you want to exclude the financing of those who are willing to pay to sustain dominating media narratives about, I don't know, Green Deal or whatever the policy objective is, so to keep the pressure that the perception of people stays on that side and not diverge from it into alternatives. So with these words, I'll conclude and open our question and answer session. And I'm very curious to see from participants what kind of questions do we have. And before we finish, I also start the session. I also want to say that we are open. I'm open, of course, for the questions. If some questions mature later on, and they are not currently ready, you can freely ask anything later on when you think that based on this presentation, some ideas are triggered. Send them with an email. Don't hesitate, and I will respond.
Okay, thank you so much, Boshko, for all your presentation. It was really, really interesting. You have here like almost 250 people connected, like listening to you right now. And some of them brought some questions on that I think might be interesting to address. I will close, if it's okay, your presentation, and then we will see you on the stage. Yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. I will be also.
I see already in the chat quite a few questions.
Yeah,
Would
sure.
you want? Okay. Would you want me to start with them?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay then. The first one is from Nidal, where I can get an impression of the list of priorities and areas where donors are focusing on. Nidal, it depends on the region. Where are you from, or for which region you're interested to work in, where you want to implement your project. So for EU, it's very easy. Answer is 100% kind of spot on. If I send you to the first funding and tenders portal, and this is where you can see the major description when you click on the work programs, and you have also links, relevant links that would lead you to policies. as I explained, the political priorities, policies and strategies, and then agencies that will create out of it funding programs. So you can see direct connections there. Then in different regions, DevEx is a good tool, resource for you to get donor strategies. Donor strategies typically don't include if they're bilateral donors, meaning from one country to another, or multilateral donors, meaning that there are more countries investing in a specific region trying to advance their influence on some policy areas, on some groups. They typically don't reveal more than their own funding strategy. So you would need to take a look at those countries' strategies in terms of their foreign policy, what they want to achieve for those regions. I would caution you that internal development plans of those countries, for example, in agriculture, energy efficiency, Green Deal, whatever would be currently priority within their country, is not the same what they want to do in other countries. And this is why I want to say these strategies are shaped differently than if you look, for example, if you take a look at German strategies for energy or climate or something, and if you look at GIZ or GFA, which is GIZ is the public side of it, and GFA, for example, is the private side of it. And if you look at what they are doing in other countries, it's not the same what they're doing in Germany. It differs a lot because it's more based on their foreign policy. So I can start if it's the EU, and EU policies dominate European continent. Start with funding and tenders portal, or type in simply at the European Commission site major EU policies and strategies. You get a list, thematic. So that's my answer. Or wider, if it's US, if it's Asia, if it's Arab countries, they are country specific, so you need to look at their country priorities. If it's donor, you look at DevEx donor strategies. I'm from Jordan. Jordan is I worked as a coordinator for Med countries, so this is good. Can I apply? Yes, you can. I would very strongly encourage you, Eman, to apply for Horizon Europe, because it's probably the greatest opportunity you can have right now to take part in. Because I remember working on a Med dialogue project between EU and all the Med countries, and working with Jordan as well. And I spent years mobilizing people and my team, my colleagues as well, Dr. Jürgen Henke at the time, Dr. Thies Wittig at the time, several other colleagues can also be at your disposal to advise you and help. We have facility established to support this type of cooperation and maximize participation of people from Jordan in Horizon Europe. So it's very, very encouraged.
Boshko, there is one question here that it says, there is any advice on how to evaluate my application before starting the process of applying for a call?
Yes, I would advise you to do two things. Unpaid evaluation. The unpaid evaluation would be to I wouldn't risk going to national contact points, EN, or so on. There is sometimes offer by the European Commission to do something, but they won't reach. These are support structures. I train them, so I know that they are not at the level of quality as the best players in the EU as the experienced proposal writers and coordinators, because they are not involved in this. Support staff is involved, and I've trained that support staff, so they know roughly what they're not at the best way level of evaluators you can get. So my advice is, first, upload the background information, similar projects from the courses that you can find for the topic area. Then upload evaluation criteria in AI, and then ask AI to make evaluations. This is use different AIs, use ChatGPT, use Grok, use DeepSeek. Those are open source, is free. I'm just first that came to my mind on listing them for you to get the best quality, because they differ. They're biased, each one based on their own creators and so on, and data sets. So use combined results, and you're going to get the first fairly good evaluation in terms of what you missed and what you covered regarding the excellence, implementation, impact. You can ask also more specific questions about the specific sections of an evaluation criteria, and you can ask them to elaborate on it. The paid evaluations, I'm doing them, and my team and my colleagues are doing them, and many organizations throughout the EU are doing them. We are doing it almost free. I won't promote here my services, pitching you the prices. I don't think that would be ethical in this bootcamp. But I can also offer from my colleagues and for myself, and I can recommend other organizations who are doing it at exceptionally low price, where opposed to AI, we also use AI, but we are all experienced managers of projects and evaluators. We all had been evaluators. I've been evaluator for small and for large projects and for programs as well. So we have much more experience on how exactly what to look at, what the AI can't see in addition to AI. So that's the answer to the question.
Another question regarding ChatGPT is that they are asking you if the ChatGPT bot you show us on the presentation is the one that is already trained for project writing, or is the normal version?
This, what I showed you, was normal version. Just what I did is I copied the text which I wanted analyzed, like topic description, scope, and so on. I copy pasted it. You can also upload. You click and upload the work program and say, provide me analysis for this call. Create the work breakdown structure. So you can do that. More advanced, what I advise you to do, more advanced way to make it work for you and in more precise way to avoid mistakes is, first you need to do your homework. Your homework means go and collect, like I did, at least 100, make it at least 20 to start with, projects from your area which are currently ongoing and recently funded, so that you provide the system or orientation systems in terms of criteria and state of the art excellence which had been reached and so on, and the structures of project that the Commission wants to see. And then this is how you train your AI. You upload that data, and they say, based on that, now create a VBS. It will be different. It will be better, because then they will consider the information from other projects. And this is the way how you train your AI, by adding those data sets which are relevant and limiting AI, instructing it. Don't use other sources. Don't mix up USAID project or some GIZ or some bank project with this, what I'm asking you, because this is specifically Horizon Europe, RIA Action, and so on and so on. So use those criterias.
There is so many questions regarding AI because I know that this is like kind of a hot topic, and we will speak about this on one of our last days here at the bootcamp. But there is one question regarding do donors, as you are evaluating proposals, do the donors check whether one's application is AI generated? If yes, do they disqualify because of the use of artificial intelligence?
Yes, but I use AI. I actually give trainings on for proposal writers how to use AI. I do that for already 2-3 years, even before the open AI showed up, because I started using it before, and nowadays there are these ethical guidelines provided by the commission. I can share them with who's interested on what do you need to do in order to use AI. So in an essence, you need to state which AI was used for what, and so on and so on. But what I've learned is that if you use specific AI, which is, for example, blend AI, I advise that through my trainings, people to merge all the possible, let's say, not overly expensive sources, and then ask results from one AI, then you copy it in a different AI, say change and advance it, then you use a third AI, change and advance it, and so on and so on. Then initially, if you ask ChatGPT, is this created by ChatGPT, it will say no. And for example, if any other AI is asked whether this is created by AI, you will again get the no. So this is how you override control whether this was created by AI or some of the most common large language learning data sets, because they're sufficiently changed and adjusted and accustomed for. And of course, I need to come back to the expertise. I'm 100% sure that without a senior expert who's well versed in proposal writing and can do final refinements, AI can't do it on its own. Because when I get the final results done by the AI, I always end up refining and kind of quarreling with AI. Where did you mess up? Now let's check and let's correct it. So the last round of refinement is always by the senior expert. It has to be still. You still can't train it to that level that you get the 14 or 15 scores, the winning scores, without seniors.
Great, thank you so much, Boshko. There was also some questions here. There is one that they are asking your advice as an NGO that they are just open recently. How they can gain trust of others to include them in the consortium, and how they can start building their expertise.
Excellent question. I won't trust you unless first I see through the first interaction that you understand the call that I'm going for. Now, that's the part of the homework before contacting me as a consortium leader. So you need to know the call. You need to you read the call and you understood what's required by the commission. Then that's the first thing I want to check. The second thing I want to check is whether you're providing me added value. So your next discussion, your next, either if it's an email or ideally a email invitation and then a brief chat between the coordinator and a partner, that's how I advise you to do. Be proactive, contact the relevant expert and leader in that field, and then adjust the profile so it pitches added value for the specific call, where your roles, expertise, networks, that all the specifics, so why you stand out compared to someone with exactly the same description, your NGO, blah blah blah, in the next country. So why you? And if you had pitched that effectively, I don't have reason not to trust you. Ideally, then, if you can show me some and mention some references and some successes that you achieved, if not within the EU framework, within the EU projects, then with some other donors, or if not, if you don't have that, then just mention some of your successes or what you successfully achieved as an organization. So I know that you're motivated, you're working, I have a clearer idea on your capacities and what you do. And I like that. If you frame it like that, then I don't have a reason not to give you an opportunity and not to invite you and say, okay, let's explore. And then during the project development stage, your active or proactive participation will determine your budget. So if you're more advanced in adding more work to you that's accepted by the leaders of the consortium in terms of expertise, so what you're proposing is well justified, you're going to get a better budget. And if you keep passive and say, okay, well, we provided what we know and so on, then the coordinator might say, okay, so I won't risk a project with giving you, for example, I don't know, 1,000, 100,000 euros within a project of 3 million. It's essentially no risk at all. And if you're giving me an added value, if you provide an added value, then I say, I'm not risking anything if you fail in your task. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Bosco. There are some questions regarding NGOs and organizations that are outside of European Union, and they are asking how they can find proposals for implementing in their countries. Do they need to have a European partner? How they can reach those EU strategies? Should be the strategies for Europe in Europe, or they have to find the strategies in their country? How should be the process?
When applying for EU programs, and they're applying from outside, if I understood correctly, right?
Yeah, we have different countries, like they ask from Nigeria, Bangladesh, and other type of countries.
Good. The first thing you need to check on the site, which I exactly mentioned at the beginning, it's the FTS, Financial Transparency System. What programs are used in your country? So that's the first step. And then when you identified programs used in your country, then through this program, you first look at the program description and work programs. Work programs will also give you a hint when and what will be the objectives of the next calls. And this is how you can start preparing yourself. And this is what you need to read. So go to the financial transparency system, click on your countries, choose benefiting country option, benefiting country, and then on the second page you will find all the projects that EU had already encountered, that already implemented in your country. And you will also see programs under which those projects were funded. You can also analyze your competitors and your potential partners in the country, because you will get an overview, the whole map of who's present in your country working with the EU. Often EU officials might check information about you through those who they already worked with, ask around. So that's common. And then the first next step for you is to read the program and the program objectives in the work program for the next calls. And then once you read that, you will have pretty much all the information needed, and you can then start doing the same what I've advised in the previous answer. You can analyze call using AI, you can search for the partners using AI, and so on.
Thank you so much. I would like to add to this one. In the previous event we were having last month, we were having the opportunity to meet one of the officers of the DJ IMPA, that is one of the DGs in the European Union that they have this funding for external organizations, like from non-EU countries. And one of the things he was advising us is like, you can contact directly each one of the external action offices that the European Union has in each one of the countries. And you can call them, you can tell them what you do, what are the opportunities. Also, they give you the framework for the next year funding. Maybe this year they will not fund anything related with your project, but maybe in 2 years, and you can have already like deadlines and all this. Like having that in mind, I think might be useful. And also, we continue with some of the questions. We have one from Carlos. It's a bit technical. He said, like, how can you frame open innovation in a logic framework that requests to define output as finished delivered products?
Mm-hmm. So first, I must distinguish when you're talking about logical framework. It's a methodology for project design which is used only currently in external aid and neighborhood and enlargement countries. Why? It differs. There are essentially three major methodologies. One would be used for those second group when we started within the EU project scheme, and the group of the direct programs under the Commission, like Horizon Europe, like Creative, and so on. This is where you don't have the logical framework approach. You need to tackle excellence, implementation, and so on. Often as a side tool, as a help tool, you might find somewhere use of this methodology, but it's dominating methodology for international donors and for EU external and enlargement projects. And as essence of the logical framework on how do you create projects with it is within the geographically given and sectoral scope, which is defined in the introduction. In the background of the call, you always have mentioned or list all the relevant policies and the previous actions correlated to this one. And then the next step, based on this given this description of what geographically targets and what are the objectives and so on. First, you need to think on who are the stakeholders within this defined geographical regions related to the problem that this log frame approach needs to solve. Now, ideally through both-way communication. Now, how do we analyze stakeholders? You want to know who's got the power over that problem, who can solve the problem, who can block solving it. You analyze interest about those stakeholders, about your project initiative and the problem, whether they have interest or not. You analyze the initial attitude towards you, whether they see your initiative positively or negatively regarding this project initiative and a problem. Then after the analysis of stakeholders, you get into direct communication, ideally into direct communication with high power, high interest stakeholders. And you ask them as well about how they see the problem. Each one would see it differently. Based on those inputs, you create what we call problem tree. You correlate those different viewpoints and analyze, structure them. And based on that problem tree, like a reflection in a mirror, each problem has its solution. Typically, it's lack of resources, lack of information, lack of cooperation, lack of skills, knowledge, whatever it's needed in order to get this resolved. And then you get your objective tree. And we come at the end, at the fourth question, which delivers brilliant projects in LFA, and that's the strategy question. While with this money offered by the Commission and with these stakeholders who are in charge for solving, what is the best possible thing that I can do in given that setup? And that will guide you to the best answers. Now, repeat once again, please, what did you want to see as the, while at the end of the process of designing log frame, what did you want to see as the end? Was it a business mentioned?
Sorry,
Just
Bosco, can you repeat?
um, at the end of the process of this design log frame, was it the business mentioned as the end result what needed funding?
They didn't write like what they were expecting. I
So
don't know if the person can
can you
write one. Yeah.
can you come back to the end of the sentence of your question, the
Yeah.
last?
Because he said like Carlos said, how can you frame open innovation in a logic framework that requests to define outputs as finished delivered products?
Right. So product. I thought business. It was a product. Okay. So um, the following the process that I explained, the only way in using logical framework approach for you to get to define a product, because this is very specific project design methodology. It differs from usual horizon goals. It's only used in external aid. So this product must actually be, as I mentioned, problem tree and then objectives tree. So this product must be a part, the crown of the objectives tree, and the part of the strategy saying that this is the most effective solution to address those problems which the stakeholders and the call text specified. That's the only way for you to justify that the product might be funded, and then that's normal way. But I've explained to you all steps on how to correlate it with what's requested in the call, which is not easy.
Okay, thank you so much, Boshko. We are going now to the last questions. One of them, it was like you were speaking before about alternative funding. And some organizations were asking, what do you mean by alternative funding? And if you can explain it a bit.
Well, I can come back to my own experiences. I was co-founder of quite a few organizations and manager of quite a few as well, and helped, I don't know, probably several hundreds of successful projects, and several thousands or more thousands have passed through my hand to shape them. So I've seen everything, but in my experience of successful projects, it was limited to crowdfunding, for example, as alternative funding, um, family funding for the startups that are addressing your own objectives to start the organization, to get it to the level where it can participate in some more serious partnerships. So to build up initial basic capacity, family and friends are the best way to create the first step. Then seed funding usually would best come from them. Then if your family and friends does not include people who have some financially or economically at the level where they can help, then feel free to go around with your project ideas within business conferences and meetings and so on, meet people who are from your sector, but think again, of course, on their own objectives. So how you can complement their own objectives. So why they might be the investors in your now that's when we're stepping into angels and VCs. Now, angels, you have, of course, I rather advise people to go to targeted conferences, targeted companies, and so on. I avoid sending them to angels, for example, European Angels Conference and Association, or European VC Association, but it's a good exercise for you. Take a look at their own priorities in terms of countries, amounts, what exactly they want to fund. So you look at the specifics of each one of them, and then communication is the key. With venture capital, you can expect sharks essentially. And my experiences and my clients' experiences from working with them had not always been beneficial. Although we had successful projects, but not so beneficial for the those who had initial ideas and so on, rather for the venture capitalists who had developed good exit strategies, good legal framework to protect themselves and extract the profits and so on. In the angel case, it's a bit softer. You can profit more and grow better, but under control and mentorship of someone who's experienced. And then again, there's a segment of control for the startups and those who are plants and creating new ideas that occasionally is a problem. Those dynamics are then a bit tense between someone who has experience and says we should go in this direction and do this, and someone who's passionate about different approaches. But yet again, it provides you this second-hand pair of eyes who's more experienced, who can sort of guide you to this rough waters of scaling up to a company which then can mobilize funding in different ways. The natural next step in the developed countries is, of course, going to issuing the stocks and issuing the shares or doing funding rounds in terms of assigning either an open calls or closed the part of the ownership of the company and gathering these type of things are common for the US, for example, and UK as well is well versed in this. They're most advanced in the financing mechanisms to when you need to mobilize financing swiftly. So you can create those rounds of gathering financing from potential investors, typically VCs, and some angels might be involved as well. So those would be when I say alternative. Then the last groups, of course, I forgot to mention because I was born and raised in Belgrade, and I remained at the time of Yugoslavia, and then there was a war and breakup of the country and so on. And many international donors were present, and I was the first one who created the database, which now one NGO runs, which is interesting, but I don't want to waste your time because it's country specific. Now, all the countries have or should have these country-specific databases. Somewhere there, someone like me organized some, but sometimes you need to do your own research. Who are those, all of the organizations active? Now, in case that I could show you, there's one link in the presentation that guides you directly to that list. Why? Because you can see how many, first, national ministries operating some foreign programs like EU programs or bilateral programs, and they're channeled through them. Then you can see banks operating EU programs and other bilateral programs. Then you can see directly embassies offering their own programs for typically NGOs and so on. Occasionally, if it's USAID and their sort of galaxy of contractors and NGOs and so on, you might find funding for NGOs, political parties, SMEs, even larger businesses. Then there's an array of multinational, larger multinational banks, like typically you'd find EBRD and ABE as the leading ones. And then you can find those bilateral or multilateral foundations. For example, Schuman, Konrad Adenauer, and I know at least like 20 or 30 to list immediately with different objectives. They are soft power, soft influence, and occasionally they would involve, depending on targets, either political objectives, either SME business, small business, large business. Depending on the objectives, you'd find these programs shaped and tailor-made for the policy objectives that they follow. So we had, in such a small country, which is now after Yugoslavia broke up, Serbia is something like 5 million, 6 million people. So we have roughly 300 active donors currently, which again tells you something about the level of influence all around for the country. So quite a lot of people would like to have influence, apparently, because they do have some policy objectives which are relevant for it.
Thank you so much, Bosco, for the information you provide us. It's true that in Convalores Hub, we are also creating our own database of donors, because we think like there are so many. The problem is like we don't know who they are or how to reach them.
Yeah.
But we created Convalores Hub network, and we started to speaking about funding because we realized that at the end, the NGOs, we need 10, 12, 15, 20 type of donors, but no more when there is a, blue ocean. Melquiades, the other co-founder, says like it's a blue ocean, but we are in the red ocean, always competing for the 6, 7, 9 funds that we know. And this is opening new opportunities for all of us. It's true that it takes an effort. It takes time. You need to know who has the money, how to apply for them. Maybe the first time is not successful, maybe the second neither. We have been here seeing organizations that they have tried and tried different type of donors until they got it and they got successful maybe the third, fourth time, fifth time. And we are here also to support each other and to share, okay, I know this donor, you know the other, and like this we create something that is bigger than our knowledge, that is the collective one. And thank you so much, Bosco, for being here. It was so useful to listen to you and to have the opportunity to have you today here. Now that we are going for a break, but I would like you to end your session giving one advice for all those. I think now it's like more than 220 people that is connected live, and all of those people that will see the recordings. What will be your advice for organizations that they are trying to find new funding opportunities?
Well, I'd like also to use the opportunity to thank you, Andrea, and thank your team and Celia and everyone I've so far communicated and met on organizing such a wonderful event and impactful, highly needed in these times of geopolitical shaping and donors shaping their agendas. This timely, perfect, and highly valuable and impactful initiative. And I was proud to be here. I remain available, of course, to everyone who has questions through email. Now, my concluding messages would be probably divided in two. One, during the beginning, until I've started doing my due diligence, my analysis of donors, markets, their programs, agenda, and until I understood them clearly, I couldn't be successful. Because I was always convinced that I had the best idea and so on, but hitting some sort of a closed door, some invisible barriers, because I didn't understand what they want to fund, regardless that I was convinced that my idea was profitable and so on. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, after years of working, my conclusion is that those who communicate best win the money. So I'd leave you with that.
Okay, thank you so much, Bosco. I think it was a really good advice. We have to learn and be better in how we communicate our projects and how we make the evaluator fall in love with our applications, because at the end that means that they might be successful. And now we will have a break. I know it has been 2 hours that has been like so intense, but it was worth it. And now we will have 30 minutes break. You don't need to go from the link and come back. I will be sharing one video with some music. You have 30 minutes to relax, and when the music is off, you come back here and we will have the opportunity to present you our next speaker, Ricardo Di Marco, that will be speaking about consortium and how to create it. Now I will be sharing my screen, we will put the music, and we have a bit of time to relax and have the opportunity to stretch a bit and then come back for the next session.
Display to the world are supported with numbers, because this way I can get a better idea of the general outreach capacity of your organization. Please do not forget to include the bio and CV of the people that is working in your organization or that you are deploying for this specific project. The bio of the staff involved needs to follow the same rule that we are considering for the general bio of the organization. Do not make it too short, do not make it too long, and stick to the information that are relevant for the partner that you are trying to connect with, the project that you are applying to, right? Last but not least, and this is something that I want to stress very clearly, pay attention to the visual aspects and the overall high aesthetic component of your bio and presentation. Pay attention to the formatting of the document. Make sure that your written presentation is neat and clean, is free from typos. Make sure that the font size and the font type is consistent. You know why this is important? Because if you meet people like me, or people like Boschko, or people like Andrea or Celia, we are very responsive and very attentive to details. If you do not put care and attention to the bio of your own organization, I am tempted to think and to believe that the same lack of attention is also given to the activities of the project and the general dynamics of our collaboration. So show me that you are indeed a very responsive and attentive partner, a partner that is attentive to details from the very presentation of your organization bio. These are the general rules that I am tempted to share for written format presentation, bio presentation. When it comes to oral pitching, you will find listed there on the right column the most common error that I see made every day by small organization as well as large organization, seasoned managers as well as young professionals that are relatively new to the world of work. First of all, golden rule, and these always apply. Do not be cocky, do not be arrogant, do not be self-centered, do not refer to yourself only, but be inclusive of your colleagues, be inclusive of your team, right? Do not make the pitching of your organization the pitching of yourself, your achievement, your career, your CV, your academic background, and so on and so forth. Do not make it about yourself. This is the most important rule. Second, follow a structure. Do not start talking and rambling and adding words over words. Follow a structure, the same structure that I shown here. Who you are, what you do, who you represent, what you're looking for, and why should I be interested in working with you. This is the structure that I would recommend. Third important rule, do not focus only on what you do. Focus also on what you achieved. Because I can list you thousands and thousands of activities that I've been involved in. But at the end of the day, what you are really interested in is the impact generated by these activities, the kind of benefits, the kind of results that I can bring in, right? Use simple language. Please, this is something that this is an error that I see doing many times. Do not overcomplicate things. start from the assumption that I know nothing about what you're talking about, right? Talk to me like you will talk to a child. Explain things in simple terms. If you use overly complicated and highly sophisticated English, you will lose 95% of the people that are present in that event. Because the only people that will be able to understand you are native speakers. And normally native speakers are just a small portion and a small minority. Last but not least, do not talk too much and too early about what you need. This makes you sound like desperate, quite frankly. So give me an introduction of yourself. Tell me who I'm speaking to. Tell me who you represent and the activities that you carry out with this organization. And then we'll start talking about us. Very simple and straightforward. About the mapping itself of professionals and organization and other partners of interest. If you look into any project management handbook, you will find tons of concepts and frameworks and methodologies and matrices and yada yada that are recommended by literature. Normally, I use just one, which quite frankly is also, I think, the most common and used in practice. This is called the power interest matrix. I map and categorize my partners, potential partners, and stakeholders based on two key variables. Number one, the power that these partners, potential partners, and stakeholders have for the success of the project and the initiatives that I am involved in. The second, the impact and the interest that these people has in the successful implementation of the project. I repeat, two variables: the power that they have for project success and the way that they are impacted by the successful implementation of the project. Let me give you an example based on the activities that Incubadora does. Incubadora is a social incubator providing for entrepreneurship coaching services for elder people and senior people, right? So they are in the education and training field, and their key target group is represented by seniors. Let's say people over the age of 45 years old or 50, doesn't matter, okay? And let's say that I am working with Incubadora on a new project that focus specifically on social entrepreneurship and sustainable entrepreneurship for the economic emancipation of senior peoples that are currently unemployed and out of jobs. Very good. So it's me, Celia, and Andrea. We sit down and we start discussing about the kind of partners, the kind of organization that can support us in the implementation of this project. What are the key actors for me in this case? Well, first of all the people with high influence and high interest, meaning people with high power and people that are very much positively impacted by the successful implementation of this initiative, which is, just an example, the local employment offices or the job centers in Valencia, the municipality officer that is specifically responsible for social services and welfare services, the microfinance system, if it exists, I don't know, or maybe, you know, the branch of the local bank that deals with this kind of activities. The second categories that I'm focusing on are categories with high influence and low interest, and low influence and high interest. So people that either has a very strong power for the successful implementation of the project, or people that is directly impacted by the successful implementation. So I'm looking at volunteers groups. I'm looking at other business incubators and accelerators in the region. I'm looking at community leaders. I'm looking at chambers of commerce. I'm looking at trade unions. I'm looking at large companies with a small CSR department that is focused on social policies, social outreach, and so on and so forth. I'm looking at policymakers, right? I'm looking at people that, again, as either high power for the successful implementation, or that is directly impacted by the successful implementation. Sorry. What's left for me? The fourth category, what I like to call the general audience. People with low interest and people with low influence, but that nonetheless can play a very important role for the communication and promotion and dissemination of the progresses of this project, the activities that we conduct, the results that we achieve. So I'm looking at medias, right? I'm looking at the press. I'm looking at local TV broadcasts. I'm looking at local radio broadcasts. I'm looking at other community groups. I'm looking at civil society organization. I'm looking at youth organization, women empowerment organization. Anyone that has the potential of contributing, even just with ideas or the promotion of the project, from an external perspective. Okay, now very important things to say about this slide. The category that each partner belongs to depends on the type of initiative, depends on the motivation of the project, depends on the background and the objective. The same category, the regional development agency, for instance, or the local policymaker, can represent a key partner if we change the focus of the project. Because this example that we are making focus on education and training for senior people. But if we are working on policy reformulation at local level, on entrepreneurship and education training program, or education training program in general, then the regional development agency becomes a key partner and no more a relevant but not yet interest partner. So again, the category of the partner, the category of the stakeholder changes based on the focus and the background and the objectives of the project. You can have the volunteer business mentors as key partner if we are focusing, if we are training business mentors, right? You can have youth or women interested in entrepreneurship as key partner if the focus of our project stick to youth or women. So please be always careful in this exercise of mapping and identification. When we need to when we need to seek for new partners, when we need to scout for organization that can become an active member hub of our nectar, there are two approaches that I recommend. The first, that I like to call the generalist approach. The second, the specialistic approach. I will start with the first one. I will start with the generalistic approach. If you browse the internet, there are countless of platforms, of web pages, of searching engines with thousands and thousands and thousands of NGOs, civil society organizations that are registered there as a way to, again, show themselves to the world and network with other like-minded people. This is the kind of approach that I would recommend if you need to start building your stakeholder list from scratch and you do not know where to start. This approach is also the kind of approach that I recommend in the case you are preparing a general stakeholder list with no focus whatsoever to any specific ongoing project or future projects. You just want to know the kind of organization and the kind of actors that are out there. So you go there and you waste one morning, one afternoon, on one full day to browse this platform and start collecting the bios and the contacts of this organization. I just gave you three references, but I assure you that there are many and many others, right? The first one is the one is a platform made available by the United Nations. It's very comprehensive. It's very well made. There are many filters that you can apply, and I'm sure that you will find at least a bunch of organizations that you are interested in. Same goes for the other two platforms. The other approach that I would like to recommend you is the specialistic approach, meaning you start browsing the platform with a specific focus in mind. Let it be about the target group, let it be about the motivations of your project, let it be about the kind of objectives that you want to achieve. Boschko introduce you to the Cordis platform. In the Cordis platform, you will find all Horizon projects divided by field, divided by strand, divided by action, etc. You can start navigating the fields and the strands of the platform and see the organizations that participated already in the program, the kind of projects that they have implemented, and the kind of results that they have achieved. I would like to do with you right now a simulation with the Erasmus Plus project result platform, which I think will be very interesting for you. Bear in mind that Erasmus is the second largest European funding programs, both for budget available and the number of applications and funded projects. The good thing for you is that some strands of the program are also open to non-EU organizations. So yes, people from Bangladesh, Nigeria, Botswana, Jordan, Kenya, and Sierra Leone, these are the countries that I have seen present today from the Q&A dashboard. Yes, you can indeed apply to Erasmus. Erasmus is the program for education, training, youth empowerment, and sport. Sport in the sense of promotion of health and well-being, and sport as a leverage of social inclusion. But let me show you the kind of search that I do when I am busy with this specialistic approach, as I like to call it. As you can see, I did already a preliminary search with reference to the same example as before. I am building this international consortium together with Incubadora, and I am interested if in Europe right now, under the Erasmus Plus program, there are already some projects that dealt with the topic of social incubation. Out of 300,000 projects, the platform filtered for me already 7 projects that deal with the social incubation topic. This, for me, is a very, very, very powerful tool to seek for organizations that have expertise in the topic and that can bring contribution to the specific new initiatives that me, Andrea, and Celia are putting together. So what you do, you start browsing each and every project, and you see the partners that contributed to its implementation, the countries from where they work, from where they come from, and the results that they have achieved and uploaded on the platform. You can understand that just by the title of the project, I know if in this partnership there is a good candidate, there is a good fit for me or not. So you have this one, for instance, that is ended in 2023. You have this other, for instance, that ended up in 2025, so it's very recent. You have this other from Romania, I guess, because this is Romania, about social entrepreneurship in local communities. And for each and every project, I go to see the details, and I want to see who contributed to this project, the results that they have achieved, where they are from, the website of these organizations, so on and so forth. Pro tip: when you work with this platform, be also very smart in the way that you use the keywords. I am using social incubation right now, but what if I type in social incubator, right? See, completely different projects with other partners, with other activities, with other results. So it is really a matter of playing with the keywords and being very strategic in this kind of search that you do. Never stop to the superficial layer, but be always very critical and analytical in this kind of search that you do. I will go back to the presentation of the PowerPoint now. Once you start collecting the profile about your potential partners, once you start looking into their bio, etc., I would recommend you to fire up your Excel software and start listing each and every organization, including, firstly and foremost, the full partner name, also available in English. Then the type of partner, in the sense of, is this a business entrepreneurship incubator? Is this a local municipality? Is this an NGO? Is this a media broadcaster? The kind of nature of the organization in itself. Please specify also if for your specific projects and for the actions that you have going on, if this partner can result as a low, medium, or high influence or interest partners. So try to give them a location in your power grid matrix. Highlight the level of engagement that you have already with this organization. Highlight if they are aware of your existence. Highlight if you established your contacts, your first contact. Highlight if they are engaged or not. Highlight if they are on board or not, or highlight even if they are unresponsive. Explain very, very briefly why you selected that organization, why that organization matters for you and for your activities. Explain very briefly why you need them, what are your expectations from them, and the kind of added value that they can bring in. And next but not least, prepare also a very short action plan for each and every organization. Note down what you need to do to make sure that that partner is on board. That's very simple. That's very straightforward, and you don't need to be a rocket science to prepare a file as such. As I said, make sure that you have two types of stakeholder list. One general stakeholder list where you include all your organizations that you work with or that you are planning to work with. Maybe you can create different Excel sheet, each sheet with grouping and clustering the same type of organization. But then also what I highly recommend is to prepare a specific partner list per each project, per each activity that you have going on. So you have everything balanced and in order. Here's another example from our network and the activities that we carrying out. And I want to show you these two projects co-founded by the European Social Plus program that I hope will give you better insight on the kind of logic that we follow to include partner organization in the project and to assign them a specific role and specific responsibility. Together with Bosco, we talk a lot about the work breakdown structure and assign to each and every partner the roles and responsibilities for each specific activities of your work breakdown structure. This project that you see here, Simple, is a project that is focused on social innovation. And the focus on social innovation is specific on migrants and Ukraine migrants and refugees integration in Europe after what happened in 2022. As you can see, and this is very interesting to notice, we do not have a Ukrainian organization in the project, or at least formally speaking. But we have a cluster of organizations spread throughout Europe that support migrants and refugees and that support Ukrainian people specifically. Like in the case of the partner number 8, Hope Ukraine Foundation, which is a global foundation with national cluster all over EU and NATO. So we brought together partners that have specific expertise and experience on migrants integration, refugees integration, and making sure that these people find the right employability opportunities and social emancipation opportunities in their destination countries. Not by chance, in fact, we have two border countries in the project. One is Hungary and the other is Poland, which of course are the two countries that are receiving the greatest portion and the greatest percentage of migrants and refugees. The second project follows the same identical rationale. We gather together people from academia, people from civil society, people from the policy spectrum, people from education and training, to make sure that we can come up with a new social innovation framework that is adapted to respond to the crisis in Ukraine and provide for new migration and integration opportunities for Ukrainian people based on previous good practices and previous best practices established in Europe since 2017-18, years of the last very big migration crisis. So I want to bring a pool of people, a pool of organization that has both technical expertise, capacities, willingness to participate, motivation, and most importantly, deep understanding of the target. talking about partnership, talking about expertise and experience, talking about knowledge of target groups, there are certain things that you want to look into when you build a partnership, when you scout for the right stakeholders and supporting people. The technical expertise and the capacity of this organization to deliver for the expected results is just one of the criteria that we focus on and that we look into, right? The fact that these organizations have the capacity and expertise and experience in the specific topic of the project doesn't mean that they want to cooperate with you. Doesn't mean that they are interested in scaling up their activities at international level. Doesn't mean that they are interested in working with your organization. So you need to find for people that is both um, that shows experience and capacity, but you want to also find people that is interested in taking part in this initiative. Many organizations in Europe work with European funding programs, but they stick to structural funding programs and projects that are supposed to be implemented at local level and managed by local authorities. They are not interested. They do not want to work with international partners for whatever reason. Maybe they do not have the staff, maybe they do not speak English, maybe they are just not aligned with the opportunities and benefits that this kind of cooperations can bring. So again, people with expertise, people with willingness to cooperate with you. And last but not least, and this is extremely important, you do not want to invite troublemakers in your table. As a matter of fact, sometimes when I meet a new organization through a common contact, I ask to this common contact to tell me a bit more about this organization, who they are, what they do, how they work, because maybe they are very good in portraying their expertise and capacity, so they tick this specific box. Maybe they demonstrate interest in cooperating, but maybe they are not a good fit for my team, for my staff, for my international consortium, and for my network. I cannot know this in advance. In economics, there is something that is called the asymmetry of information, right? I don't know about this organization and they do not know about me. I can base my judgment only on their profile, on their LinkedIn account, on their website, but these things are very important, of course, but nonetheless, they do not give you a sense, they do not give you an idea if this organization works well or not. If you will find yourself in with this organization in harmony or not, right? Other things that you want to look into when you work with international at international organization at international level with other organization is the following. You want to find partners that are aware, or to better say, are comfortable in operating in professional settings, in working tables, where there is cultural diversity. you know better than me, because I'm sure that some of you operate already at international level to some extent, that all over Europe, all over the globe, that use and customs are very different, right? We have use and customs in Italy, we have way of working, way of doing things in Italy that are not the same as in Spain or in Serbia, and vice versa. So when you work with international partners, when you work with organizations that operate at cross-border level, keep always in mind if these organizations are used to operate at international level. Because if not, this might give you some problems that I will show you later. Also, you want to connect and you want to network with people that is not toxic. Meaning, if there is a common work to do, if there is a common schedule, if there is a common action plan, they demonstrate willingness to reach out for support, they ask for support, and they give support, right? You do not want the lone wolf mentality, as I call it. You want to cooperate with people that operates according to standards of open and transparent communication. You want to work with people that you know you can rely on, and you know that you can have a very straightforward discussion about anything. And most importantly, you want to work with people that recognize the fact that they are working in a collaborative project. And so these people is willing to share credit where credit is due. The project, international collaboration projects are never about a single organization. International collaboration projects are always about a cluster of organizations and a group of people coming together to achieve common goals. I can spend hours and hours and hours on these slides only. Throughout the years, me and colleagues collected a series of desired behaviors and undesired behaviors that we carefully take into consideration when we need to build an international consortium and an international partnership, right? So the first thing that we do when we meet organizations that we do not know yet very well is the preparation of a short memorandum of understanding. I don't know if the majority of you is aware or is familiar with this document. I will show you a template later so we do not waste time now. I want to look for people that communicate to me in simple terms, in very clear, specific, and simple terms. I want to look for people that ask for clarifications in case needed and do not venture into the project or into the activities without a very clear and crystal clear, I would say, understanding of what is the common plan. Again, I want to avoid people with the lone wolf mentality. I want to cooperate with you. I want to be in your support, and I expect that you are in my support and that you cooperate with me. Last but not least, I want to work with people that communicate. I want to work with people that makes the partnership and the members of the partnership aware of the difficulties that they are encountering so that we can work on this together. And I want to cooperate with people that makes me aware of the results that they are achieving so that we can celebrate together. What I do not look for, what I do not want in my consortium and in the consortium that I build for partners and clients, people that is unresponsive, people that decides to participate in the project, people that follows the indication till the submission of the project, and then when it's time to do the work, disappear in the dark. and quite frankly, appear from time to time only when it's time to receive money. That's not a desired behavior, and quite frankly, it's pretty much annoying. I do not want to work with people that, despite our common plan, despite the common decisions taken, decides to move on their own and do things on their own. You can do things on your own, but please inform me on the whys. Tell me why you decided to do differently compared to what we agreed before, right? I do not want people that step over my feet or the feet of other partners, because these create confusion. Going back to Boschko presentation, you want to allocate tasks and responsibilities to people. These tasks and responsibilities are assigned based on their competences and their expertise. So you need to stick to your task, to your responsibilities, and to your roles. You can help me, of course, you can provide for inputs, comments, recommendation, but do not step over my fence. I do not want to work with people that is constantly late with the submission of the required documents. Again, we are working in a collaborative projects. Your inputs, your documents, your results inform my process, triggers the start of my process. If you are late, we are all late. If we are all late, the project is underperforming. If the project is underperforming, the grant authority is not satisfied. If the grant authority is not satisfied, no money for us. That's very simple. I do not want to work with people that is disengaged. Why are you disengaged? You told me that you have the competences and expertise to do things. You showed interest in participating in the project. You show interested in taking part in this initiative. Now, why all of a sudden you're not doing the work that you are supposed to do? What's wrong? Last but not least, I do not want to work with people that performs below expectations. If you told me, and if you reassured me on the fact that you have the capacity and expertise to work on this project, to work on these results, and to deliver for these expected impacts, how come the work that I see from you is not matching the expectations that you give me? These go back to these slides right here. I just want to jump, where was it? Sorry for the headache. Here we go. Do not make inflated claims, because once we start working together, I have the opportunity to benchmark what you communicated to me before the start of our partnership and the results that you are actually delivering for, right? About the memorandum of understanding. In the previous slides, I shown you that this is the first desired behavior that I expect from a partner. We meet, we like each other, we decide that we want to cooperate together, we prepare a memorandum of understanding. What is it? It's a piece of paper, basically, signed by me and you, where we put black on white, where we put on paper what is the purpose of our collaboration, who are the people involved and the organization involved, what are our common roles and responsibilities, how long will last our cooperation, what is the nature of this agreement, if legally binding or not, if there is any confidentiality disclaimer that we need to agree, right? This is very common, for instance, in the IT sector in general. When the agreement, when the memorandum of understanding ends, and why, what are the conditions to terminate this memorandum of understanding, so our collaboration, and the signatures of partners involved. I'll make it full screen so that you can show the content. This is just a template, of course. It's relatively straightforward, right? Not more, not less than what you can find in the bullet list on the right. But again, the memorandum of understanding serves the need of stating very clearly and putting on paper the purpose, the motivation, and the conditions of our collaboration. So that in 1 year from now, 1.5 years from now, there are no misagreement and no misalignment between the two of us, between me and Incubadora, on what were the actual conditions of our collaboration. Because there is a piece of paper signed by the both of us 1.5 years before, stating very clearly all the key features of our cooperation. Speaking of mismanagement, misalignment, and misunderstanding, I want to end my presentation with these slides. Again, I can talk hours and hours about these slides only. Are international collaboration projects and international partnership always sunshine and flowers and gardens? Absolutely not. It might happen that you have challenging situations to manage and to address when working at international level with international partners. Based on our experience, based on our background, and based on the many projects that we work with, me and my colleagues, with partners from all over the world, there are 3 typical scenarios that can bring a cooperation and a partnership to be messy, right? To not use other words. The given partner or the partners that you are involved with are unresponsive. Either they do not reply, either they do not follow up the ongoing conversation, or they do not show real engagement in the activities. That's the first scenario. The second scenario, the partner or partners that you are involving are underperforming. So they are not delivering the expected results. Between the two, I think that the most common is the first. Partner is unresponsive, right? But it might happen that you meet an organization that, to better say, do not match your expectations. Third messy scenario, this is very rare, but it might happen again. The partner is confrontational. You are not aligned with this organization and the people working for this organization. You are not aligned both at a professional level and also at a personal level. There is no feeling, right? When this happens, things can get critical, and it might require sensitive consideration. Let's start with the first, some things that you can do to cover and address the scenario of which that is the unresponsive partner involved. First of all, first thing that you want to do, you want to restate again in a very short, concise format and in plain English what are the deadlines and what are the expectations in the sense of results and outputs expected. Then you want to be very, if this doesn't work, you want to be very gentle and nudge a direct feedback, right? Maybe you have their number, maybe you have their personal email, maybe you have a direct contact that puts them in the condition to reply, to not ignore your message. You want to be a bit more firm, and you want to ask for a status update, giving for granted that they are working. So you want to put a little bit of pressure. Or if any of this is working, you want to flag the issue to the other partners, to the coordinator, to the applicant organization, someone with greater authority than you that can step in. These are the 4 recommendations that I have in this scenario. Second scenario, the partner is underperforming. Now, you want to be gentle at first, and you want to see why this situation is happening. You want to make sure that maybe, you know, this partner was just very busy during this period, or there is an internal turnover of staff so that they do not have the necessary manpower to carry out this activity, etc. You just want to check on them to see what is going on. After that you check on them, you take this opportunity to realign them to the current work schedule. And you start asking them results, outputs, and deliverables in smaller pieces. You want to be a facilitator. You want to facilitate and support their participation in the project, right? You want to be gentle in your approach, and you want to make sure that the activities that they are responsible for keep progressing regardless. You can share with them examples and templates that they can refer to in the case that they do not know how to perform a specific task, or in the case they do not have the specific expertise to carry out this very little and a small portion of the work. You want to be very, again, gentle in your way, and you want to re-bring them on board, right? Because you notice that they are a bit misaligned, so you want to make sure that we are all crossing this path all together. So you want to be also very gentle in your language. And if needed, by the end of this entire process, you reschedule another alignment meeting to see if their results, their outputs are effectively aligned to your expectations and to the general expectation of the project. Last scenario, the partner is confrontation. If you feel that you the relationship with a partner or with a person from the team of the partner organization is starting to get a bit messy, I would recommend to have, first of all, a one-on-one conversation with this person. Not via email, not via message, in person if possible, or at least via video conference. So you want to sit down with him or her and ask very firmly, but politely, what is wrong? And why the relation seems being so disharmonized, right? So you want to acknowledge very calmly that there is indeed a problem, and that this problem, if escalates further, can bring to bigger problems that will reflect also on the partnership, on the quality of the project, and on the quality of the results. The key way to get out from these confrontational scenarios is to stick to objective facts, not feelings. Do not talk with your feelings. Do not let your guts talk. Stick to objective scenarios, right? That will be easier for you to bring back the discussion to a common ground. If needed, feel free to request for the support of a third independent party that is called in as a form of arbiter, as a form of a negotiator, right? If you think that you cannot find a common ground with this person by yourself, at least try to bring in a third perspective that can help both of you to reestablish synergy and harmony. Whatever you do, reframe always the discussion about the shared roles of the project and not the past conflicts. Not what happened, but what needs to happen. Because at the end of the day, again, I repeat, we are not here to make friends. We are here to implementing international projects. We are here to establish professional partnership. We are here to deliver for results. If we make friends in the meantime, even better, right? But we are not here to chit chat or to make friends. So whatever we do, at least we need to keep in mind that we need to put aside our differences and we need to stick to facts and we need to work for the achievement of the project objectives. Last 5 minutes, let's just recap what we discussed about. Each column is a specific section of my presentation. Just to recap very briefly, whatever the size of your organization is, whatever the nature of your activity is, etc., the bio of your organization should privilege clarity, relevance, and the potential impacts that you can achieve, because these are the things that grants authorities and partners are interested in. Be very critical and schematic in structuring your presentation. Let it be in an oral format, let it be in a written format, but be always considerate of the different operational contexts, the different expectations of different partners categories. So you want to be flexible enough in how you structure your information to readapt them and change them in a chameleontic way. Say what matters most in the given context. Focus on the essentials, right? People have a very low attention span. So you want to really focus on the key highlights and the essentials of your communication. Let it be via your website, your LinkedIn profile, or your oral pitching. Make the best out of social media and digital media. Never oversell, be very relatable and be very realistic. Identify your potential partners. Pay attention to the power and the influence or let's say interest of this organization. What power they do detain to contribute to the successful implementation and how the successful implementation impacts them. If you think that the potential partner is not a good fit for your consortium, for your project, do not push the relation, right? Keep it informal. Keep this organization in the back of your mind. Include this organization in the general stakeholder list that you have prepared, but do not push partnership that your sixth sense will tell you not work. For being a trustworthy and reliable partners, be always consistent with yourself, with your persona, with the bio and motives of your organization. Be always responsive, be always proactive. Avoid at all costs bad people, because bad people influence like a disease your organization and the rest of the partnership when you work with them in a collaborative projects. If you have them, at least try to contain the issue. Always show an empathic attitude and supportive attitude, but be very firm and strict when it needs to be firm and strict. Right? When your organization, your consortium, your projects needs to deliver for the expected results, and try always to leave a good impression of yourself and your organization. Thank you very much for your attention. We've been super on time, and I'm ready to take questions, comments, and anything in between.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. I was reading through the questions that people were asking, and so many of them, they wanted to thank you because it was really, really interesting presentation. You covered all the topics about alliances, the good ones and also the challenging ones, and I think that's really interesting and fruitful for all the people that are here today listening to you. Now we have some questions. If any one of you have any questions, you can drop it on the questions and answer box. And now we will go with those that they have already dropped them there. Okay? Okay, perfect. One of them, it was saying that it was an excellent presentation, first of all. And then, like, how do you know a partner have shared values with your organization if you don't know them well, because it's the first, like the first time you meet, especially when it comes to honesty, transparency, and accountability?
$1 million question, this is. Okay, two scenarios. I do not meet this organization. I never met them in person. All I have is their website, their social media, their online digital presence. So this is the case where I did not met this organization before, right? The first thing that I do is I check their website and I see their activities on the website, what they do, how they promote them, the kind of language they use, if they have testimonials, if there is a bio of the staff, and what is the general feeling about the website. So from the website, I can understand if at least, they have a value section, they have a mission section, they have a CSR section that states crystal clear their values and if they are aligned to mine. If they have it, there is a very positive sign. If they don't, maybe they forget, maybe they don't know, maybe they did not pay attention to this, but let's assume that they just forget. Second thing that I do is I check their social medias. And I'm interested to see what kind of posts they have, what is their messaging, what is the content of their post, and what are the reaction of people. From the reaction, you can tell way more things than by the post itself. Third, if I am convinced by their website, their social media presence, I kindly request for one-on-one meeting. And in this one-on-one meeting, I send an email or a WhatsApp, because now many businesses have their WhatsApp linked in their website. And I follow this very simple structured email. Hi, my name is Ricardo. I saw your website. I remain particularly fascinated by these activities, these projects. This is the same thing that I do. And I did these activities in Guatemala, Venezuela, the Arctic region, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to meet, and would you be interested to meet? Because I would like to connect with you, share synergies, share know-how, and see if maybe there is potential to collaborate together. Worst case scenarios, you wasted 30 minutes of your work day, but this is a very worthy investment. On the other hand, if you are meeting up person face-to-face during, for instance, an info day or an event. There is a mixture of factors in. First of all, your background and expertise, right? If you are a young professional, you don't have enough expertise and past experiences that can guide you through certain scenarios and situations. But if you are a more seasoned professionals, then you know how to navigate this social landscape. So you trust a little bit your sixth sense, right? Your gut feeling. And then you want to take note of what these people, of what this person says. So you want to take for granted whatever she saying. You want to take note so that you demonstrate also interest in what they're saying. And then when you go back to your apartment or to your hotel, you go on LinkedIn and you search them. And you see if the activities that they claimed, the results that they claim, are also portrayed in their website, in their LinkedIn bio, in the website of their organization. So you want to do this sort of benchmark. If all informations are in there as well, then this person is a trustworthy and reliable person because he or she is not inventing anything. But if you find difficulties in finding more about this organization or this person, then I would be cautious if I were in your position, to better say. You cannot never know in advance if a person is trustworthy and reliable or not. There is a third scenario in which you have a friends in common. And if you have a friend in common or a contact in common, you can ask this common contact person, hey, I just met Julio or Luana or Santiago at this event. Have you ever worked with him or her? How is she? What do they do? Can we trust them or not? I hope that's answering your question.
Everyone is saying that it was really, really helpful, all your presentation, and they are so grateful to have you here, Ricardo. One of the questions is like you were speaking about info days, you were speaking about meeting people. What's your strategy? Because sometimes what happens, like people think like, okay, we meet in an info day and then we can partner up. How is the process for you? It's like you expect to meet someone, then to send them an email, and then to have a meeting one to one. How long it takes from I meet a person to we apply together for a consortium?
That's a great question. It really depends on people and your reactiveness and your reaction time, to better say. This is what I normally do when I go to info days. First of all, I go there with no expectations. It might seem counterintuitive, but if you go there with 100,000 million flyers and poster and this and that, it makes you seem desperate. And nobody wants to seem desperate because desperate people shoot at the crowd of bird in expectation of catching at least one bird, right? So you want to be very strategic and selective with the people that you connect with and the partners that you are engaging in your current actions and initiatives, specifically if you do not know them well. So I go there with no expectations. I take notes of the event, yari yari, and then there is always a social moment, networking moment, the social aperitif, where people start sipping champagne and eating finger food. This is where chaos begins. This is when chaos begins. Because imagine 3,000 people in the same conference room, all with the same objective of meeting, talking, connecting. And what they normally do, they all come up with a script, right? So they learn by memory, okay, what do I do? What do I represent? This is my organization, blah, blah, blah. And they start copy pasting this format to every interaction they have. And you see it. I mean, it's evident. And again, it makes you sound desperate. So what I normally do, me and my colleagues, this is something that my senior told me. I just sit in a corner and recharge my social batteries, guaranteed that people will come to talk to you. And if people come talk to you, start by asking again, what is your organization dealing with, what kind of activities you have going on. Skip all the background, education, professional profile, etc. Go straight to the point. So you know if these activities of this organization align your expectations or not. Take always their business card and take a pencil and write down on their business card their name or surname or nickname, where you met them, what you talk about, so that you have an excuse to write an email right after you go back to the hotel and say, hey, Miguel, hey, Natasha, hey, Cindy, it was a great pleasure meeting you today. It was very interesting to know more about your NGOs. This is my contact. This is my email. For future reference, of course, please feel free to reach out. So you send this email right after the networking event. Nobody does that. And when you actually write to people, they remain surprised because nobody does that. Then Cindy or Natasha or whoever will reply to me and say, hi, Ricardo, yes, likewise, great pleasure on meeting you, good luck with everything, and so on and so forth. Then what you do, you wait 2-3 weeks, and you share with this person any result of any projects that you are doing and conducting, and that is aligned to the interest of Cindy, Natasha, and the average Joe. And you start building this relation step by step. The building of a relation, the building of a consortium requires time. The building of trust requires time. The more reactive and responsive you are, the easier it is for you to strengthen this relation. And also shorten the time between the meeting and actual collaboration. Okay, let's do something together.
Thank you so much, Ricardo, because I think all of us, we have been in networkings in which you try to speak with everyone, and then I see like your strategy is totally different. And I'm sure like all the people that are here connected right now will go for the next networking meeting and will do the things you have said. For me, one of the things that that it was interesting is like you take time from the first contact to the second one. Is that like to make the other interest in you, or what is the strategy behind that? Not making like, okay, let's meet up.
It comes very natural. The first email that you send to this person is just a thank you email. Hey, it's been a pleasure meeting you. Very interesting to know more about yourself and your organization. Here is my contact. You know that, for instance, I never go with business card because it gives me the opportunity to write you an email so that you save my email.
Okay.
And that is the trick that I have to make sure that at least this person remembers about me. Oh yeah, this is the Italian guy, Riccardo, the one with the tie and the beard. Yes, he just wrote to me an email. And I send you a couple of links about the projects that I'm working on. I want to be a thank you email, but I'm an informative email. So I want to give you something to remember. But the moment that you send this email is right after the event. So if the event is on the morning, you send it in the afternoon. If the event is on the evening, on the afternoon, you send it in the evening, and so on and so forth. And then you start building this relationship. It also gives you the opportunity to see if this person is responsive or not. Because I'm sure that this person sent and shared 500 business cards that day. So is it really interested in building this relation with me? How much time is he, she taking to reply to my email? Can I trust him? Is it responsive? Is it reactive? Because I am responsive and reactive, but I also expect from you to be the same. So it is an opportunity for me to take measure as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ricardo. There are also one question regarding like, if we meet an organization, do they have to be open to partnership? Because how we explain to them that we benefit having a partnership, creating a consortium, applying together for funds. Do they need to be open on the first step, or it could be like how we share with them, like it's better to do it together?
Here's the other counterintuitive recommendation. International collaboration is not mandatory. If the organization do not want to work at international level, do not want to work with you, do not force your hand. Do not force your hand, because if you force your hand, probably they will say yes to you out of desperation, because wow, you send me an email and then you call me and then a WhatsApp, yes, okay, let's do this project, so at least you shut up. But then when you are working on the project, this organization is not committed and is not interested. They were not interested in the first place. So you are bringing into the project a potential toxic player, someone that is either disinterested, disengaged, or even toxic, because they don't want to work with you. So if this organization says, well, no, well, actually, I'm not really interested in this Erasmus Cordis, what are you talking about? I don't care. Fine, go to the next one. The sea is, how you say, plenty of fish are in the sea. Do not force your hand, because you are nurturing a potential enemy and disruptor from the inside. If they don't know, if they do not want to work with you, if they do not recognize the benefit, you are not the one supposed to share with them the benefits. Also, you have to consider that many organizations have a political agenda. So there is the director, the board, the secretariat that said for this year, no international projects. What are you going to do? You need to convince the project manager, that needs to convince the director, that then needs to convince the secretariat general. I mean, it's a pain in the back. So just forget about it. The thing that you can do to communicate these mutual benefits to organizations that at least show interest really depends on the project. But in general, there are two key things that I focus on to describe the benefits of international collaboration and mutual benefits. Besides money, and I'm not talking about financials. One, import-export of good practices, right? You know something that I don't. You can do something that I can't. So let me learn from you instead of paying an external consultant. By working in this project with you, I can absorb from you something that I don't know. Okay? That's the first one. The second one is a zero cost investment in internationalization. If you want to scale up your activities, if you want to scale up your mission, if you want to scale up your vision, if you want to do something different, right? You can do it thanks to European funding programs and international programs in general at zero cost, because most of the programs do not require a real investment from your side, besides effort and energies. So yeah, you can still do social incubation, you can still do women entrepreneurship, but you can do it on a different level. And by working in the different level, you can learn from me some good practices. You can familiarize with case studies that I would not have been exposed to if I was not involved in this project.
Okay, thank you so much, Ricardo. And last but not least, we have some people that they have asked for your contact. where they can find you.
I will leave it here in the chat right now.
Perfect.
May I? Is there some place where I can use the Q&A
Yeah,
section?
you put the chat and you put everyone, and then it goes to everyone. They can see on the chat.
Okay, perfect.
Happy day.
Perfect.
If not, I always suggest like go to LinkedIn. Like every one of us like might be there, and I'm sure if you type his name, he will be also available there. And now, Ricardo, we are going to finish our first day at the bootcamp of hands-on like grants and grow. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure. I will send you after the messages of the people thanking you, saying it was like so impressive, like the way you explain something that for so many people looks so difficult, that is to partner up, how you make it so easy and how they understand how they have to communicate in the future. Thank you so much. And now I will share your email with everyone.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I will share it here. I will send it to everyone and they can have the opportunity to speak with you directly if they want to. And now I will wrap up a bit what we have been seeing through the day and what is coming tomorrow and the day after, because this is only the beginning. We have been more than 250 people through all the day connected, and that's impressive because you have been for 4 hours sitting on the laptop listening to our experts, but we know it was worth it. And tomorrow we will continue having the opportunity to speak from in the first session about project management. And after, in the second section, after the break, we will be speaking about financial management and budgeting. And that's the second day of the bootcamp. But as we decided to make it so intense and so worthy for everyone that it's coming, we will have a third day in which we will speak in the first session about monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning, because we know it's important also for all of us that we are working on a different type of projects to show the results to the donors, because it might have like it might do the difference between having again funds or not, and that's really key. And also we will finish the bootcamp with a session about how to leverage with tech the proposal writing. We know we have so many questions about artificial intelligence. We were speaking before also with Boschko about it, and we will have a full session about it with one of our top experts, and we will have the opportunity to learn more how we can increase our skills with technology. This is the full program. It's gonna be super interesting. You saw it today that we had the opportunity to speak with really top experts on each one of the topics, and tomorrow and Friday will be the same. For all of you that you are asking about the recordings and about the presentations, we will be sharing everything the next week. Do not worry. We will have the opportunity to check it at home, to be able to watch again the videos, to watch it with subtitles if English is not your mother tongue or you prefer to do it in other languages. And we will send you all of this the next week, okay? Do not worry. And now, last but not least, we want to hear from you what you think. We have prepared all this bootcamp because we understood that it was important for all of you from our Fans Week in June event that you wanted to know more about project management, funding, partnership, alliances, etc. And we create this type of event. And now we will send with you one feedback form in which you can say to us how was today, because we want to keep improving and keep preparing better events for everyone. We know that in this network, in Convalores Hub, we want every one of us to be a better project manager for tomorrow, because that means we will keep developing social impact and local impact in any place in the world we are. Here right now, people from all over the world. And nothing. Now we want to thank you for being here. Thank you for staying 4 hours in front of the PC, like learning and sharing with the community. And we will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the same link as today. If you have it there, save it. It will be for the for the 3 days, it will be the same link. And like this, we make it easier for everyone. But anyway, we will send you a recording email on 8:30 tomorrow, 30 minutes prior to starting the event. If you don't receive our emails, check the spam, because we have some issues with the emailing, and in some boxes we end up in the spam. You can check it. And nothing, we hope you enjoyed. For us, it was a pleasure to organize all of this. I thank again my team, and especially Celia, for all the preparation. And I hope today you learned and it was a fruitful journey for all of you. For us, it was a lot. And see you tomorrow, okay? Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Andrea
Thank
and
you.
Celia,
Thank you,
again.
Ricardo. Bye.